Hi, I am Urvil and I'll be taking you guys through the second part of the first recitation. Sheila must have already taken you through the basics of Python. And as you know, Python is an object-oriented high-level programming language. So I will be covering the part of object-oriented programming, or as it is commonly referred to, OOPS. We'll start with four basic concepts. The first one is the class. The class is a user-defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. So this is where you will write your code for doing any meaningful task. Object is nothing but an instance of a class. So basically every time you call the class, you create a separate object and it consists its own methods, properties and attributes to make a particular type of data useful. Methods. Inside classes, you'll write functions which are nothing but methods, so that those will be small chunks of code, and those methods can be called when you instantiate a class. Constructors, these are used for initializing new objects, so they are essentially a separate type of methods. Throughout the code, you will see that there is something called as a self argument. The self argument refers to the object itself. So all the attributes and the methods inside an object will be accessible through the self argument. The init function is called the initializer. It is a special type of constructor in OOP concepts. This is used when we instantiate the class. This function or this method will make sure that the class has any attributes it needs while instantiating, and it also makes sure that the object is in a valid state. Next, there are two types of attributes. First one is the instance attributes that are unique to each object. So for example, in the example that you can see below, the passengers are an instance attribute. Color and speed also are instance attributes because they are defined by the user while instantiating this particular class. And these attributes will be different for each instance of the class. Whereas class attributes are something that are unique to each class. So they'll be same for all instances. As you can see over here, we have created a class called car, and we have two methods. One is the init method and the second is the accelerate method. This is the initializer or the constructor, and this is just another method that we can call once you have instantiated the class. And as you can see here, we have created three instances of this particular class called BMW, Ferrari, and Ford. And then we can use this particular object and we can access the accelerate method from this particular object. You guys can try this and check what the different attributes are, print them out, try to accelerate and then print out the speed again. The next topic that we're going to look at is an important topic, and it's inheritance. Inheritance is basically used to enable reusability of the code, so we don't have to write the same code again and again, and we can actually borrow from different classes and different methods. There are two basic distinctions in the classes. The first one is the parent class, and that is the class that is being inherited from, and it is also known as the base class. And the second one is the child class that actually inherits from the parent class, and it's also called the derived class. Let's see this example. We have a class called person, right? This is the basic class that we've also, a similar example that we've seen above. And now we create a child class. So we define it so where the class student is actually inheriting all methods and all attributes from the class person. So when we've instantiated the class student, we've used the same attributes that we need to give while instantiating person, first name and last name, and we can access the print name method from the class person. Another thing that we can do is we can define a separate init function for the child class, which is something that we've done here. We've not actually defined anything. This is just an example. Like if you wanted to write any piece of code, you could write it here. So when you add the init class for the child class, sorry, when you add the init method for the child class, it will no longer inherit from the parents init method. The child's init method will override the parents initialization method. To keep the inheritance from the parents init class, we actually add a call to the parents init function. So over here, the parent class is the person class, and we've added a call to the person's init function. And now, many a times when you're writing code, it will not be so easy to keep track of what class are you actually deriving from. So in that case, we can just use the super function that will automatically inherit from the parents init class. So over here, you just add a call super, and it will take all the functions and all the attributes from the person class. We can add different properties to the child class as well. This is one of the basic use cases for inheritance when you already have a piece of code that you want to replicate and then you want to add on to it. So over here in the init class itself, we've added a graduation here, 2019. And we can add that parameter to the init function of the child class. And then we can define it. And then for instantiating the class, though, we'll require this additional attribute called the year. We can add methods to the class as well. So this is a new method that we've defined, except for the get name method that we already defined in the person class. So once you print it, you'll see that we can access the first name, last name, and the graduation year, and this particular statement will get printed. The above example is of a single inheritance. Going further, let's look at multiple inheritance. One type of multiple inheritance is when we are defining a child class based on two parent classes. So over here, we have the class mother as the first base class and the class father as the second base class. And the derived class, which is the son, is based on both mother and father. So the attribute for mother name, which is there in the mother class, will be accessible, and father name, which is there in the father class, will also be accessible when we instantiate son. So when we initially print out the object S1, it's going to take the default mother name and father name that we've given in these classes respectively. Once we redefine the father name and mother name, and then we type out parents, or we call this method, which essentially types out the parent's name, we'll see that now it is Jack and Jill. The next type of inheritance is multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, features of the base class and derived class are further inherited into a new derived class. So this is similar to the relationship. So we've given kind of an example which makes it easier to understand this. So let's say there is a base class, then there is a child class which is based on this base class, and the next level is a grandchild class which actually inherits from the child class. But since the child class itself inherits from the base class, the grandchild class will also have all the attributes and methods from the base class. For example, you can see here, when we are instantiating the grandchild class, we have access to all methods: the get name method from the base class, the get age method from the child class, and the get address method from the grandchild class. The next example is that of hierarchical inheritance. The hierarchical inheritance, essentially, we are basing two different derived classes on the same base class. This is pretty straightforward, and all the earlier rules that we've already seen apply here. The next type of inheritance is hybrid inheritance, which is a combination of the methods that we've discussed above. You can run this piece of code and you can play with it, add different methods, add different attributes, and check how this exactly works. Okay. The next topic is method resolution order. So this is particularly useful when we have a multi-level inheritance or a hybrid kind of inheritance, where we just want to see what the resolution order is. So for example, in the first example, we've seen that if we add an init method to the child class, it will override the init method from the parent class. So in case of such confusions in the code, you can just call the MRO method. So for any class, you can call the MRO attribute, and that will basically return a tuple with the resolution order. And this is an example of how the super function will work with multi-level inheritance. So for example, here we have initialized, finally we instantiated the class GFG3. So when we are calling this class GFG3, it will go over here, it will initialize GFG3. And then since we are inheriting it from GFG2, it will instantiate GFG2, which will in turn instantiate GFG1. And here when we've instantiated GFG3, we can see that all of these three print statements are printed for three classes. After that, we've called the sub GFG method that we've defined here. So it will print the statement and then it will call the method from GFG2. And the same thing will happen here where it will call the method from GFG1. There are some topics that are good to know. Not These are not like mandatory topics. These are not extremely useful, but they're good to know. They might help you with certain parts of the course. The first is the class method versus the static method. And for this, I found out that the link that is given here is particularly useful. So I would suggest that you guys go through this link and go through this entire piece of code and understand why a particular operation is happening, and try to print out different variables and see what exactly is getting inherited where. The second topic is dunder methods. It's short for double underscore methods. So initially we've seen the double underscore init method, which is used for instantiating all the classes. So similarly for different mathematical operations as well, we have other dunder methods. These are just basically used for operator overloading. At the end, we have given two exercises. The first one is based on recursion, which is to implement a Fibonacci sequence. This is pretty straightforward. You just have to call the same function again and again, and it'll keep on printing it. And the second exercise is a depth first search with recursion. So most of you guys might be aware with the depth first search. So basically you go to the left and then through the root, you go to the root, you go to the left, go to the root, go to the left, and keep on repeating it till it's complete. And then you traverse the other path. So that's what will happen here. It will go from A to B to D, then E, then A to C to F. So the output that we're looking for is A, B, D, E, C, F. After this, I think if you complete both of these exercises and if you go through all the above topics, you can be fairly confident with Python basics and OOP concepts. Although I would suggest doing some independent exercises just so that you're familiar with implementing different kinds of classes and different kinds of inheritance. As always, if you guys have any doubts, please feel free to post on Piazza.